What's up, toy soldiers? Welcome to Mighty Champions. Today we are going to be unboxing and reviewing the Hasbro Pulse exclusive VHS box set of Spider-Man and Vulture. Couldn't be more excited to dive into this thing. I am a lifelong fan of Spider-Man the Animated Series. One of my biggest collections is a Spider-Man the Animated Series display. And we are definitely going to bust this thing open with the help of the mighty professor of science, of champions. He's going to give us his objective scientific review of these figures. I'm going to give you my objective opinion of the figures. Before we break this thing open and take a look at them, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you leave me a comment. Let me know if you picked this up. What's your stance on the animated series? Do you love it or do you love it? All right, without further ado, let's take a look. Of course, the first thing that we always dive into is the box itself, and today is no different, especially with this absolutely incredible box. The box is like half the reason to buy these Hasbro Pulse exclusives. You've got the characters on the back here, Spider-Man and Vulture. You've got the awesome logo up top here, all of your legal jargon. Please don't swallow any of these parts. On one side, you've got Marvel's Spider-Man and Marvel's Vulture, that beautiful old school Spider-Man art logo, the Marvel Comics up top. On the bottom, again, please don't swallow any of these parts. And then on this side, you've got the VHS style packaging, which is like the whole point of this thing. My only gripe with this line is that each one of these says 1, 2. They don't continue on, because technically this would be maybe 9 and 10, something like that. I'm not really actually sure, but I wish the numbers kept on going forward. And then obviously on the front, like you guys have already seen, we've got Spider-Man and Vulture, this awesome action scene, the great logo. I just absolutely adore this box. This is one of the few examples of the windowless packaging being a positive. It's not a good thing across the board except for these VHS boxes, because these help my display and they just look amazing, and I love them and I keep them and I will cherish them forever and ever and ever. But enough about the god dang box. Let's see what's on the inside of it. All right, we have successfully freed Spider-Man and Vulture from their, well, I was about to say plastic prison, from their paper dainty little flowers, their little paper doilies. The first thing we always do on the channel is we take a look at the accessories, and these have got some pretty rad accessories. So starting off with the hands of Spider-Man, he does have a couple of punchers, which is always great. He's Spider-Man after all, and he's got the strength of a spider, relatively speaking, and he is going to punch people, so got to have some really good looking spider fists. He also comes with a pair of grabbers for grabbing. He's sticky, he's a spider, so he's going to want those. And then one cool thing that I've never seen before is a mask. He has a removed mask that's actually kind of sculpted to look like it's cloth and just like laying. It has the little this at the top, whatever that is. This is going to make for some pretty cool photography kind of stuff, so really happy to have that. And then the thing that absolutely sets my personal little nerd heart on fire is the inclusion of the Peter Parker head. I did not get the Peter Parker set because I just didn't really have a need for it in my display, but I do like having this Peter Parker head because it looks just like the cartoon, and we will definitely be doing some versions of this Spider-Man with this head. I'll definitely show that, guys, to you. But glad to have that. And then I have one major question for everyone who I didn't notice in the online pictures and things like that. You've got Vulture here with his young head. You've got Vulture with his old head. You've got Spider-Man with his Spider-Man face. You've got Spider-Man with his Peter Parker face. Who in the blue hell is this? I don't know who this is. My best guess is that it's Flash Thompson, just going through the cast of the animated show in my head. But if it is Flash Thompson, why is it Flash Thompson? What does he have to do with any of this? So not really sure why this was included. But if somebody can help me out with that in the comments, I'd be happy to know what the heck is going on here. Who's that? And then getting into Vulture's accessories, he's got also a couple of punching hands. I don't know if he's doing too much punching while he's flying, but you can see that these have this really interesting, like candy apple kind of clear coaty, like translucent kind of finish to them, which I think looks awesome. It really makes it pop and stand out. It really has like, the best way I can describe it is it has a real toy vibe to it, and I love that about this finish, this coat. He also has his old man head. This is what I'm going to be displaying it with. Obviously in the show, he's like stealing people's youth and their vitality, and he spends a lot of the episode young, but to me, Vulture's an old guy. In the comics, he's old. In the movie, he's old. So I like him old, so I'm going to go with this one. Makes him a little scarier. His mask has that same candy coating to it, which I think looks great on this head sculpt. The like mask just looks incredible. Great job on that team. And then we have got his actual wings. The color of these, I don't know if it's really showing up on camera, but the color of these is a lot lighter. It's a little bit more of like a sky baby blue kind of aqua color than what I thought they were going to be. That's not better or worse. It's just different than what I thought. But we've seen these wings before. These are really similar to Falcon's wings. We've seen these wings on a few other characters, but we'll get them snapped onto Falcon and we'll take a look at them on the figure. But since I'm talking about that, why don't we take a look at Falcon? Do I call him Falcon? I'm an idiot. Let's look at Vulture instead. All right, there is Vulture in all his glory, wings attached. The wings go on really easily. They really just clip onto the back of his arms. There's little holes to insert them into. It's two different pieces so that when you bend his arm, they kind of rotate. They do come out a little bit easy, but if you get them posed, they're not just gonna fall out. But so yeah, the wings are pretty simple. Kind of getting into the figure itself, he does have, like I said, that candy apple green armor all over his little shoulder pads, his helmet, his little chest piece, which looks awesome. His like glove gauntlet areas, and then the rest of him is kind of that like blue aqua kind of color. His little pouches and bombs, and he's packing heat. He's got a gun on him. His boots are the same color as the rest of his pants. It's all double jointed and pinless, which I love. Really good articulation as far as by design. Now, one of the things that I did notice as I was putting the wings on was he is made out of like soft rubber. He's made out of a different material than most figures are made out of, and he feels like gummy because of it. And this arm, I'm actually worried about trying to articulate the shoulder joint all the way because the bicep, I don't know if you can see it, the bicep wants to bend more than the shoulder wants to move. The shoulder's really, really tight when it goes to in and out. It'll go up and down. And this one will go up and down easily. This pad moves and gives you some space. But he's got like yeah, like a gummy vibe, like a gummy nature to him. And it doesn't really feel that good to pose him. It's actually kind of scary. So when I get this guy on the shelf, I'm really just going to see what kind of a pose I can get him into, and I'm going to leave him there. But he does have his neck will look up, which I love with flying characters because you want to get them kind of in this position. That's a good thing, but you can also see there's a seam right here that's already looking a little suspicious, and that's because of me changing out the head one time. So don't love that. The abs will crunch really, really far forward, and they'll crunch really, really far backwards. So if you combine that with the head, you got a perfect flying character right there, which I love. We already kind of went over the arms. They do have the articulation, but mine is just a little bit scary, so I'm not going to play with that. He will do the full Vulture splits. He does have drop down? Not drop down hips. He'll do a pretty vicious big boot, honestly. And then his legs do go, he can actually touch his own butt, so that is awesome. The articulation that they intended for this guy to have, oh, I just noticed that his hands are claws. That's great. No reason for those other hands. He's got claws. That's incredible. So this thing looks really, really good, but it is made of a little bit of a softer material, and I am a little bit just worried about superposing him. So there you go. All right, let's be real. Let's be honest about this. Nobody came here to talk about Vulture. We came to talk about Spider-Man. The man, the myth, the legend, the one we all know and love. This Spider-Man figure, as soon as I started kind of posing it around, I kind of noticed that it is a little bit of an older formula, but I love Spider-Man, and there's really no doing it wrong, in my opinion. There is some stuff about this that I don't think is perfect, but he has the classic suit that you see in the show, and it is not cell shaded. It's just classically red and blue in all the places that you want it to be red and blue. Nice big white eyes. No like variance to this. This is just your standard Spider-Man as far as like the design, the paint job goes. Articulation wise, the head goes down, the head goes pretty far up, which you like in a Spider-Man, obviously side to side. He will crunch a little bit forward, and he will crunch a pretty good amount backwards. You can hear it ratchet. The shoulders up to 90. They do obviously rotate all the way around. His elbows are double jointed and pinless, which I love in a Spider-Man. The wrists go round and round, and a little bit of flexion too. And then in his lower body, not drop down hips, but he will do some of a split. That's a kind of a disappointing thing with Spider-Man. Thigh cut, double jointed, stiff. Pinless double jointed legs, but pretty stiff. You can maybe even see this thing is wanting to give up right there as I'm doing that. So it doesn't feel like the highest of quality in the world, if I'm being brutally honest. Ankles will go forward, they'll go backwards. They've got a lot of side to side. Like, why would Spider-Man need to do that? That's kind of scary, actually. But he can, so that'll probably do some ground poses pretty well. So this thing actually poses up pretty good. Why don't we have a look at some comparisons? All right, here we have the new wall crawler versus one of the previous VHS, the black suit with the cell shading. I wanted to give you guys this comparison because I wanted to show you cell shading versus no cell shading. So especially on this black suit, it stands out quite a bit. I love this specific black suit because I think that the normal black suits are boring action figures. Great in comic books, great in the cartoon because they are cell shaded and they kind of look like this. So big fan of this figure. And here's your Spider-Man in comparison to your Spider-Man. God, I'm an idiot. Now we've got Vulture and a different Spider-Man. I don't have another Vulture to compare this Vulture to, but I did want to put him with another Spider-Man just so you could kind of get some comparisons of what he might look like outside of the animated series and whether or not he meshes with that. This is the MCU one that just doesn't have the Tom Holland head on it, and it's got this can of beams spider sense, which I love. So I don't know. They don't really look like they necessarily go together, but they don't necessarily clash either. Another thing I noticed as I was posing up the Vulture here is he does not have a boot cut. And so getting him into a standing position is actually pretty challenging. I would imagine that most of us are going to use a flight stand for him anyway. But just so you know, trying to get him to stand up with those Marvel ankles and his big heavy wings is a chore. We have reached the portion of the review where the mighty professor of science, of champions, is going to do an overview of these figures. He's going to give us his completely scientific, objective review of these Marvel Legends. We're going to get his data, and then when we're done doing that, then I'm going to give you guys my opinions. He's going to be on a scale of 1 to 100. I'm going to be on a scale of cold to hot. So let's give him a chance to do his thing, and then we'll get his opinion. Mighty Professor, what does the data show? What is the science? How do you rate these VHS Hasbro exclusive Spider-Man and Vulture?
The science shows these figures are below modern Marvel Legends standards in a construction and posability sense. Although they look great, I am rating this Vulture 72 out of 100, and this Spider-Man is only 80 out of
Wow, okay,
100.
there you have it. Harsh words from the Mighty Professor. How do I feel about these figures on a scale of cold to hot? Let's start things off with the Vulture. I like the Vulture as a villain. I like the episode or episodes with the Vulture in this show. I have wanted this Vulture. I have got a villain from the animated series display. All villains, one Spider Man. Um, the real question is, what do I think of the execution of this specific Vulture? And I'm going to be brutally honest with you guys. I think it's very, very poorly executed. When it's just standing here, just doing nothing, it looks fantastic. I love the colors. I love the design. I love the candy coating. I think that all that looks great. When you actually touch this thing, it's kind of a POS. I'm not going to lie. This might be the worst figure that we've reviewed on the show. I'm really worried that some of these joints are just going to come apart when you go to bend the legs. Like I'm trying to bend the knee and it feels like the hip is going to come off. That shouldn't be the case on an action figure. The ankles are too loose, the knees are too tight. He doesn't feel like when you move him, he's going to stay there. He feels like he's going to kind of snap back. This is one of the worst figures that I think I've touched in Marvel Legends, and the you can see what the intention was, and the intention was really good. So I was really excited about this thing going into it, and it will look pretty good when I get it just stationary. So I'm going to go right in the middle. I'm going to go smack dab in the middle on this. Could have been a lot better. It could be worse. Just historically, it could be worse, but it also could have been a lot better. The other thing is the wings fall out really, really easily. So that's a pretty big problem. Okay, let's take a look at Spider-Man. Obviously, I'm a massive Spider-Man fan. You guys have seen some of the stuff in my room. You've seen that I'm just like obsessed with the character of Spider-Man. I love Spider-Man. Can't have enough Spider-Mans. This one in particular, I was really, really excited about because I have wanted one from the animated series. I have the cel-shaded one, but I couldn't bring myself to open it, so it's on the wall. And so to get another one was really, really exciting. This one is certainly not perfect. It even has things like this joint being red is really annoying to me. And it has some of the same stuff that the Vulture has. When I go to bend the arm, I go to bend that double joint, and then I can feel the joint up here start to separate, and that gives me reason to worry. Same thing with the knees. I go to bend the knees, and you can see that start to separate. That's not okay. I shouldn't have to put so much effort. Like, look at that gap right there in the shin while I'm trying to do it. It should be easier than this, especially with a Spider-Man. You expect a certain level of articulation. And I will say that this Spider-Man, when it comes to posing and things like that, is actually really, really fun. Like he can get into all of the cool flying poses and things like that that you would want a Spider-Man to get into. It just doesn't feel safe necessarily to get him into those poses. Love the accessories. This one's really tough for me because I don't really feel like the quality is where it should have been on this, but it's not the worst. I am happy to have it. It is actually going to replace this guy, and it's going to be the Spider-Man that's in my display. I'll go through that display with you guys in a collection connection one of these days. Where do I rank it? Beginning of orange, just pretty orange, which I'm really disappointed to say, because as soon as I saw that box, as soon as I pre-ordered it, I got really, really excited. Just the finished product isn't as good as I would like. If you don't own a Spider-Man figure and you're looking for a Spider-Man figure to buy, it's not this one. Let's put it that way. Well, that wraps it up for my review of the Hasbro exclusive VHS Spider-Man and Vulture. Thank you guys for joining me. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the future reviews. You don't miss the toy hunts where we find this stuff, and the collection connections where we go over my connection and we talk about your collection. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. Thank you guys very much for being with me, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.